Welcome back to my channel, the place where we uncover those small but powerful secrets that can truly transform your health and your life. If you're in your 52nd, 62nd, or even older, stay with me for the next few minutes. I promise, what you hear today might just help you avoid a sudden stroke, something many people think is simply fate. But in reality, it often starts with the very habits we practice each morning. Did you know that the first 60 minutes after you wake up are like a golden gateway for your health? I often tell my patients, this is the hour when your body is awake, yet at its most vulnerable. I call it a physiological storm. Your blood is thicker because you've gone 7 to 8 hours without a sip of water. At the same time, your cortisol, the stress hormone, surges like a built-in alarm clock to jolt you awake. And your blood pressure? It naturally spikes to its peak right there in the early morning. Now picture this. These three factors collide at once. Thicker blood, surging stress hormones, and rising blood pressure. For a younger body, that might be just a passing breeze. But if you're over 60, with arteries that are less flexible and a heart that has to work harder, it becomes a real storm. And if you choose the wrong habit during this window, you're multiplying your risk of stroke. So let me ask you to pause for a moment. Think about this morning. What was the very first thing you did when you opened your eyes? Comment 1 if it was coffee, 2 if it was grabbing your phone, and 3 if it was drinking a glass of water. I'd love to know. I want you to picture this with me. It's a beautiful morning. The sun is slowly rising through your window. You reach for your favorite cup of coffee, the rich aroma filling the air. It feels wonderful, doesn't it? But here's what most people don't realize. In that exact moment, if you haven't had a single sip of water yet, the blood in your body is as thick as syrup being pushed through a tiny straw. Your heart has to beat harder, work overtime, just to pump that thick blood up to your brain. And when you add coffee, a stimulant, on top of that, you're putting even more strain on your cardiovascular system. One of my patients, William, 67, once told me he always began his mornings with a strong cup of black coffee. He thought it was the secret to staying sharp and ready for the day. But one morning, after feeling dizzy and nearly collapsing, he finally agreed to follow my advice. Drink a glass of warm water before your coffee. Just a few weeks later, he came back and said, "Robert, I can't believe such a small change could make such a difference. I feel lighter, more alert, my heart beats steadier, and that morning dizziness is gone." I want you to remember this. Drinking water in the morning isn't just about quenching thirst. It's like watering a garden after a long, dry night. Your body has worked tirelessly to repair itself while you slept, and now it needs to be refreshed. Don't make your heart struggle with thickened blood when you can make its job so much easier simply by starting your day with a glass of warm water. Have you ever tried drinking water instead of coffee first thing in the morning? Now, I want to talk to you about another habit I see in so many of my older patients. Skipping breakfast. Does that sound familiar? A lot of people tell me, "I'm not hungry in the morning. I'll just skip it to keep my stomach light. Maybe it'll even help me lose weight." Some even call it intermittent fasting, which is trendy right now. But let me be honest with you. After more than 30 years of working with people over 50, I've seen far too many cases of sudden collapse that began with nothing more than skipping breakfast. Here's why. Your brain is an energy-hungry machine. It runs almost entirely on glucose, sugar in your blood. After a long night's sleep, your glucose reserves are already depleted. If you skip breakfast, your brain is essentially running on empty. What happens then? Dizziness, fatigue, sometimes even confusion. And for older adults, with blood vessels that are already sensitive, a sudden dip in blood sugar can be the spark that lights the fire for a stroke. I remember one of my patients, Mary, 72. She came to see me because her hands were trembling and she sometimes forgot simple tasks in the morning. It turned out she had the habit of drinking tea, but keeping her stomach empty until lunchtime. We tried a small change, just one boiled egg or a few slices of avocado in the morning. And the result? 2 weeks later, she came back smiling. "Doctor, it feels like someone turned the lights back on in my brain." See, breakfast doesn't have to be complicated. It's simply a small promise to your brain that you will take care of it today. What about you? Do you often skip breakfast? There's one habit I'm almost certain many of you watching this video have: grabbing your phone the moment you open your eyes. Sound familiar? You turn it on, scroll through negative headlines, an inbox full of work emails or comments on social media, and you think of it as just starting the day. But for a body over 60, this is actually a dangerous experiment. Here's why. When you first wake up, your blood pressure is already at its highest point of the day. On top of that, your cortisol, the stress hormone, is surging. And then you throw in another stress bomb by reading the news or stressful messages. The result? Your body immediately flips into fight or flight mode. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream. Your heart rate climbs, and your blood pressure spikes even higher. You might not notice it right away, but deep inside, your blood vessels, already less flexible with age, are straining under the pressure. One of my patients, Richard, 64, admitted to me, "Doctor, the first thing I do is grab my phone. By the time I finish reading the news, my head is already spinning before I even get out of bed." When I introduced him to what I call the golden pause, giving yourself 10 quiet minutes before letting the outside world in, he was amazed at the difference. "Doctor," he told me, "my mornings feel lighter. My heart feels calmer." You see, sometimes what you need isn't more information, it's a moment of silence. Try sitting by the window, sipping a cup of tea, breathing deeply. That isn't a luxury. That is neurological hygiene, a simple but powerful way to protect your brain. There's another habit that might seem small, but it's far more dangerous than most people realize: holding in your urine after waking up. I know, sometimes you just want to stay in bed a few extra minutes, or you think, "I'll go later." But your body doesn't see it that way. When your bladder is full, it creates physical pressure that triggers your sympathetic nervous system. The result? Your blood pressure can shoot up by 10 to 15 points within minutes. For a younger person, that spike may not mean much. But for someone in their 62nd or 72nd, already living with high blood pressure, those extra 15 points could be the drop of water that makes the cup overflow. I once had a patient, Thomas, age 70, who came to see me after experiencing dizziness one morning. After some questions, I discovered he often held it in until he finished his chores around the house. We changed just one thing: go to the bathroom right after you wake up. When he returned weeks later, he told me, "Robert, I never realized something that simple could make me feel so much better." Our bodies always speak to us. They tell us when they're thirsty, when they're hungry, when they're tired, and when they need to be relieved. But too often, people ignore these signals, believing that schedules or habits matter more. In truth, that tiny arrogance can become your biggest risk. Now, let's move to another common scene. You wake up still feeling sluggish, lingering in bed without moving. Or, on the other extreme, you spring up, lace your sneakers and launch straight into a high-intensity workout. Both extremes are risky, and I call this the mistake of morning movement. When you stay still too long, blood can pool in your legs, raising the chance of clots. But if you jump into intense exercise too quickly, while your blood vessels are still cold and stiff after a long night, it's like stretching a brittle rubber band. A small plaque can break loose and travel to the brain, triggering a stroke. I remember Linda, 66, a devoted yoga enthusiast. She used to jump right into deep stretches at dawn. One morning, she felt dizzy, her heart racing, and had to stop. When we talked, she realized her body needed a gentle awakening, not a shock. She changed her routine, rolling her wrists and ankles in bed, standing up slowly, then walking around the house before moving into her full practice. The result? She felt lighter, steadier, and safer. Think of the body like a river. It needs to flow gently and smoothly, not crash like a sudden tidal wave. So remember this: wake the body, don't startle it. This morning, which choice did you make? Lying still, jumping into something intense, or gently easing your body awake? There's a habit many people don't realize is incredibly dangerous: lighting up a cigarette right after waking up. I know some of you may have been smoking for decades, and you often say, "Doctor, without that morning cigarette, I just can't wake up." But here's the truth: that very moment, when your blood is thick, your blood pressure at its peak, and your cortisol surging, is when a cigarette becomes the most dangerous trigger of all. Nicotine causes your blood vessels to tighten, forcing your heart to beat faster. Carbon monoxide from the smoke lowers your blood's ability to carry oxygen. Now imagine this: already thick blood struggling through narrowed vessels, carrying less oxygen than normal. It's like a traffic jam of cars stuck on a narrow mountain road. An accident is only a matter of time. One of my longtime patients, James, 70, suffered a thanks in advance, what many call a mini-stroke. When I asked about his morning habits, he admitted, "I always light up the moment I open my eyes." Together, we built a plan to gradually cut back. Instead of reaching for a cigarette first thing, he started with a glass of warm water and a few minutes of deep breathing by the window. After 3 months, he had cut his morning cigarettes in half. And his words to me were, "Doctor, I don't feel my heart pounding out of my chest every morning anymore." I understand. Quitting smoking isn't easy. But if you're smoking the moment you wake up, you need to know that you're cornering your heart at the most vulnerable point of your day. Have you ever asked yourself, does that first cigarette really wake you up? Or is it just fooling you into thinking it does? There's something that seems harmless, but in reality, it has a deep impact on your health. Missing out on natural sunlight in the morning. I've seen many of my patients with this habit. Waking up, staying inside a dimly lit house, never opening the curtains, never stepping outside. They flip on artificial lights and think that's enough. But your body doesn't agree. Morning sunlight is like a natural alarm clock for your entire biology. It helps shut off melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy, and resets your body's circadian rhythm. Without that light, your internal clock drifts off balance. You feel sluggish, foggy, and your blood pressure doesn't regulate properly. Over time, this can raise your risk of heart disease and even lead to sleep disorders. I remember one of my patients, Susan, 69, who complained of heavy-headedness and lingering drowsiness every morning. She thought it was just part of getting older, but when I asked, she admitted she usually made tea, sat in her dark living room, and rarely opened a window. We tried one simple change. Every morning, open the curtains, Step onto the porch for 10 minutes. Just breathe and look at the sky. 2 weeks later, she returned with a brighter face and said, "Doctor, I don't feel groggy in the mornings anymore, and I'm sleeping deeper at night." Think of natural sunlight as a kind of medicine, free, no prescription required, always waiting right outside your door. So let me ask you, this morning, did you let the sunlight touch your face? By now, you can see how these seemingly small morning habits can actually create a dangerous chain reaction. Picture this. You wake up dehydrated, your blood thickened. You skip breakfast, leaving your brain without fuel. You grab your phone, and your already high blood pressure spikes even higher. You hold in your bladder, adding more strain on your heart. Then you jump into intense exercise, or you light up a cigarette. Each of these on its own might seem like a minor risk, but together, they combine into the perfect storm, the very conditions that can lead to a stroke. I can't tell you how many patients have come to me saying, "Doctor, I don't understand why I suddenly had a stroke. I was living my life normally every day." But when I asked about their morning routines, the truth became clear. A stroke is rarely a bolt from the blue. It's often the end result of repeated choices, small decisions made morning after morning. The good news is this: you can change your direction. Imagine standing at a crossroads. Down one path, you continue those unconscious habits, letting risk pile up. Down the other path, you choose simple, meaningful actions: a glass of warm water, a light breakfast, a quiet moment of peace, listening to your body, stepping into the sunlight, moving gently. And here's the key: you don't have to change everything in a single day. Just start with one small shift. Like planting a seed in the soil, it may seem tiny at first, but over time it grows into something strong and life-giving. So let me ask you, tomorrow morning, which change will you choose for yourself? You see, true health doesn't come from expensive pills, luxury gyms, or complicated surgeries. Real health begins with the small, repeated moments of your morning. A glass of warm water, a light breakfast, opening the window to let sunlight in, listening when your body speaks, giving yourself a few quiet minutes before facing the noise of the world. These simple acts are the foundation that protects your heart and your brain. I often tell my patients, you are the gardener of your own body. Every morning, you can choose to water that garden with care, through healthy habits, or let it dry out through neglect. Health is not a miracle. It's the harvest of small seeds you plant every single day. And if you're over 60, don't think it's too late to change. The choices you make tomorrow morning could be the turning point for the rest of your journey. One patient once told me, "Doctor, I wish I had known this sooner." And I told him, we can never turn back time, but we can always begin again, starting with tomorrow morning. So let me ask you, tomorrow morning, will you begin with a glass of warm water? Will you give yourself a quiet word of thanks for carrying you through the night? If you agree it's time to change, type "yes" in the comments below so I know you're ready. Thank you for listening. And remember, your health doesn't rest in anyone else's hands. It lives in the choices you make every single morning.